Hi friends, Gilly here with another In the Weeds, the official CCL halftime show presented by Roll20. I'm Gilly, and this time I'm joined by Prismat. I thought it was Masquerade because we've got a bathrobe, but he tells me it's Prismat from ogygem Esports. Hey Prismat, how's it going?
Hey Gilly, it's going well. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Look at this amazing robe. Does this robe have a story? It's clearly monogrammed, and yours.
Yeah, it's courtesy of Steve, ogygem Steve. He's our player/team manager, and he got this sent out to me.
Amazing. Well, you look fantastic. You look ready for a good, comfortable interview talking about CCL playoffs. So I really appreciate you dressing for the occasion. Did you guys take a break over the holidays?
Yeah, we had a break for about 2 weeks, 2 weeks or so.
How was it for you?
I know it was fine. Just doing other stuff for a bit.
Yeah.
A little bit long, but overall, it was decent to have.
Well, good. And now you're back. How's CCL? How was the season for you, and how's it been going for you overall so far?
The first half was amazing. We just were beating everyone pretty handily. Then we had some stumbling parts, losing to Granite and then Crowd Control, which I feel like overall those were series that were very winnable for us, and we just made some crucial mistakes. So we had stuff to work on going into playoffs, and I think overall most of those issues have been worked out, and we should hopefully not see them come up again in the playoffs.
Is it a kind of a relieving factor for you almost to be able to have those tough losses in a way that you can kind of sort those things out before playoffs?
Yeah, it's good that the issues showed themselves after going 4-0 in the first half basically secured us for top four, pretty close to securing us. So having those issues happen once we're already secured is better than having them come up in playoffs. Yeah,
for sure. Kind of like a best case scenario for losing if it can be done. So, anytime I talk to former HCC players, I love talking about favorite memories from HCC. Do you have a favorite memory or a favorite moment from HCC?
There was one time I B-stepped Lutano after chasing him down. He was on Tracer and I was Greyman. That was pretty fun.
Perfect. I think I maybe remember that. Maybe.
Yeah, it was in the playoffs for qualifying to BlizzCon 2018, I think.
Gotcha. Nice. That's definitely a good one. My favorite moment with you, I mean, not at the time, but like looking back, is you and I had a winners interview. And I can't remember how you responded, but it was something about ping. And I just remember like people on comms, because it's Blizzard, they don't really want to talk about that too much. It was like, all right, let's like steer the combo or whatever. And so just so you know, you're throwing people off, even back throwing people for a loop, I guess, since 2017. So good work.
Yeah, I try a little bit to do that.
Yeah, who would have thought? Well, what did you make of the ladder last weekend? Did you expect Simplicity to come out on top?
Yeah, I think so, to be honest. We scrimmed them a lot, and I think from what I heard from other teams too, Simplicity's been the team that practiced the most by far. They practice. I think they were scrimming basically every day for the past 2 weeks minimum.
Wow.
And yeah, so they were overall, like, in scrims against us, we're going pretty even with them. So they're definitely a pretty strong team.
Dang, that makes for a super strong top four then. Was it a top four teams that you would have expected looking at kind of the rosters at the start of the season? Obviously there are trades and things, but in general?
I would have expected 30K with all of the trades that they got, that they would end up with a team that would make top four. It's pretty crazy overall, just other teams ending up being stronger than them. That's the biggest surprise for me.
Is there any particular team that is maybe the most surprising to you?
And maybe my team. I think not for me, but for other people would be most surprised by my team, because going after the draft was done, people were saying there's no synergy between our team, or what's the like plan for this team? What's the like overall sort of thing that this team is going to be good at? It's just 5 good players. They don't do anything together. Whereas they could say something about Wildheart, like Justin's going to carry the team, or Crowd Control just has a bunch of really strong European players, or Simplicity just has their old HCC roster basically.
Yeah.
So
Although, I think it's been proven that having HGC players doesn't obviously necessarily mean you'll make the end of playoffs. What did you think? What were you saying maybe to your teammates with those kinds of rumors and things that people were saying about you?
I think they already knew that like people outside didn't really understand what people were capable of in game.
Gotcha. Well, so this is a kind of a sort of an awkward situation where this interview is going to play day 2 of playoffs, right? So you'll have played your first round match. So talking about that first round match, it's versus WildHearth, and I would love to know what you think about that match, as well as if you have any words for, former teammates that are on that team.
Yeah, okay, so, well, I guess everyone will know that this has been recorded in advance of the match. Yeah. So I can say my predictions for what'll happen in the match.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing, Uther's a really high priority pick. That's something that I think WildHearth has basically been the team that made Uther a priority pick. A lot of teams have been first picking him in the draft. And that's because of WildHearth running double support / main tank Uther comps. In addition to that, they're going to have some weird cheese. I think Justin respects our team enough that he'll bring out some of his weird cheese and prep stuff and not just try to save it for crowd control, which is the team that he'd expect to win again, between crowd control and simplicity. So we'll have to be ready for that. I'll have to make sure my team knows going into each match how we're going to deal with the cheese that has been drafted, how we're going to play the game out. Let's see. I guess words for Justin. I mean, me and Justin talk basically like every night after scrims. We talk about stuff.
Okay.
So we've overall just been not like directly prepping. We still like aren't talking about specific things, but we talk about like what we think of other teams and like how we think the season is going, how our team is doing.
So no direct words. It'll all be said on the battlefield.
Yeah.
All right. In general, looking at playoffs, and thank you, by the way, for sharing how you think that's going to break down. That's going to be super interesting to see how close it ends up being, especially if the match goes long. But in general, do you guys have any, spicy strategies prepared for playoffs?
We have a few. Nothing too crazy, but there's some picks that I can bring out that have some specific situations that can be really strong in.
Nice. Well, I'm pumped. I hope we get to see them, unless that specific situation is like, we're losing badly, in which case, I obviously don't wish that upon you. So what has preparation looked like for you all so far after coming back from break?
Just scrimming mostly. Okay. We had one day of VOD review that we went over a few things, but mostly just scrims, just standard stuff.
Gotcha. One question I have, for you specifically, you've always been a player that has, kind of a wide variety of heroes available to you for drafts. We can see you play some out-of-the-box stuff, and I just think that's so amazing, and I've always wondered how you, as a player, make sure that you can stay relevant on, so many different heroes and be that flexible when you need to for a team.
I think the biggest thing is just knowing where a hero fits in well, like what matchups you can do really well in with a hero and what team comps that they can fit into. Like my thoughts is, if you can pick a hero where they're in like their best case scenario, you don't actually need to be too well practiced on them, and you don't need to be too amazing at them. You can basically just get carried by how strong the hero is in that situation, and you don't need to execute it as amazingly as you would with a more standard pick.
Gotcha. So it's about understanding that matchup and the strengths and weaknesses there versus needing to be like 100% just set and ready and practiced on them in that moment. Cool.
Yeah, like you could pick a standard pick and play it perfectly, but if it's a really good situation for a more weird off-meta pick, you don't need to play it. You could play it at 80% and get much more value out of it than the standard pick would.
That's cool. That's great insight. Thank you. My last question for you before I give you time for shoutouts is, what's been your favorite game or moment during the CCL season so far?
I think there was a Zeratul game. I think it was against Chili Mountain. That one was pretty good. I had a really nice flank in the last team fight of the game. Let's see, is there another game that I really liked? We'll just say this Zeratul game against Chili Mountain, I think.
Cool. Do you guys, when you get moments like that, how do you communicate them to your team? You know, knowing that you've got this amazing flank, or that you know that you're going to have a Lutano B-steppable moment. What are you saying in those moments?
In that situation, I was putting pressure on their backline, so I knew that several of their heroes had to come back to help their Ana out. So I was telling my team that their front line is going to end up isolated and that they should capitalize on that. And then I think for a little bit when in the middle of that fight, and then my team just ended up being like, oh, Priz just 1v4'd their backline. Okay.
So it's always focus on the win condition. I like it. All right. Well, yeah, thank you, Priz. Do you have any shout outs before we go?
Yeah, shout outs to my team. They're working really hard, improving very steadily, always taking feedback, improving on it very quickly. Shout outs to Steve and Cascon and Cavguest, who are our coaches type of thing, like out of game, helping us go through draft, go through strategy, improving communication, stuff like that. And also for the nice house coat. And let's see. Shout out Justin overall too. He's been working really hard. Really improving overall like the meta and teaching his team in a similar way that I've taught mine.
I love it. It's a new era, but it's still awesome to have those same friendships along the way. So that's super cool. As is your house coat, as you would call it. Thank you everyone for watching another In the Weeds presented by Roll20. And most of all, thank you so much, Prismat, for joining me.
Thanks, Gilly.